Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you all the books that I ended up finishing in the month of October. So if you guys been watching my Vlogtober that I did throughout the month, you'll know that it was a bit of a crazy month just in terms of midterms and exams and all of that. So because of that, my reading kind of got put on the back burner for a couple weeks throughout the month. So I only read a total of 3 books this month, but considering how hectic this month was, I'm actually pretty pleased with that. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So starting out, I finally finished A Piece of the World by Christina Kline. This has been on my TBR since the summer and I finally picked it up. But basically the premise of this, it follows a woman named Christina who was the inspiration behind the painting of Christina's World, which is probably one of the most renowned 20th century American paintings, and it kind of goes behind the story behind the woman of it and her relationship. She has something, they don't really know what it is like when they talk about her disease, but it's like Charcot-Marie tooth is what they like, because I looked it up afterwards, is what they think the disease was. So it's very debilitating. Her hands are very much deformed. She has a hard time walking, and she's very much a prisoner of her own home. And we get to see kind of how that house and her relationship with that house kind of shaped that painting, as you can see, like where she's like crawling on the ground towards that. And so it was very interesting to see how the painter was able to depict that, and we kind of see how like when she's a kid growing up and her relationship with her parents and how that all shaped her into becoming the person that she was, very much trapped and secluded in her home. So I did find that aspect to be really interesting. However, it was very, like, the first half of the book was very dull and it was very kind of jumps all over the place in time, and it wasn't very consistent. That part was just a little bit like I didn't really enjoy as much, but the second half of the book that really dives into kind of her kind of dependence in that house and how it's also her prison but also her sanctuary, like going into that I found to be really interesting. So I felt like if it was perhaps the beginning part was done a little bit differently, I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more, but I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't my favorite of this author's, but it was still really interesting, and I just like that concept of your house being a prison and sanctuary. I think a lot of people can relate to, so I did really enjoy that part. And I also learned a lot. Like, I didn't know about this painting and all that, and just kind of the history behind it and the narrative she created around it was just really interesting. Next, I ended up picking up The Shape of Night by Tess Gerritsen, and this was her newest release that came out this month. And it follows this girl who's running away from her problems in Boston, and she ends up renting out this old fisherman's house in Maine, and she's using that time to finish up her cookbook that she is working on. But essentially when she's there's these strange occurrences occurring in this house. She thinks she's seeing the old fisherman who died at sea's ghost. There's some strange things that cannot be explained in this house, and there also was a murder that took place in this town as well. So this one was definitely different from Tess Gerritsen's other works. I read the Recieve and I series growing up and I loved it, so this is her first foray into kind of like paranormal mystery, and it does have a very good gothic feel to it. The house, just the town, was just very atmospheric. However, I felt like the plot did drag a little bit throughout the beginning, similar to A Piece of the World. It wasn't until like around the halfway point that it actually starts to pick up, and I actually was a little bit invested in it because there is also that little mystery twist with the paranormal kind of overarching theme throughout. So I did enjoy the last half of the book. It was just like, again, the first part was really slow and it had a very unreliable narrator, which is not really something that I really enjoy reading from, and because of some of the characters like flaws, essentially she very much would have like the same routine every night, and it would just be very repetitive, and then like something would happen after she would be drinking in the night, and it was just kind of like, again, very repetitive. So I did give this one a 3 out of 5 stars. It was a little bit different than what I generally gravitate towards, but it was just a fun kind of Halloween read. It was good, but I was just not obsessed with it, so yeah, it was just all right. And lastly, this month I ended up picking up Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, and I'm sure you guys have seen this book everywhere. My Goodreads was spammed with people reading this, so I'm sure you guys generally know the premise of it. But for those of you who don't know, this is Leigh Bardugo's first foray into kind of the adult genre. So basically the premise of this story is that it follows a girl named Alex who gets recruited by one of the secret societies of Yale that overlooks the basically is like the governing house for all the secret societies that practice in the occult. And so Alex has a special ability where she can see ghosts, and this is very rare within the people that have like this magic system basically. And if people were to have that ability, they have to drink like a potion that's very, very toxic. So she is there looking over these occult groups, and then there's a murder that takes place that she thinks that one of the occult groups was involved in, and it kind of takes off from there. Again, following the theme for October books, for whatever reason, the first part did start off very slow, and it wasn't until the 170, 180 page mark that I actually found myself invested in this book. The first part, you're kind of just like thrown into this world, and there isn't a lot of world building or explanation involved with the different houses, like the ceremonies. The characters have positions that they're referred to, and they have nicknames, so it's very hard to kind of keep track of everyone in here. So like I said, it was a little bit struggle city, and I wasn't very much tempted to read this. I was thinking about DNFing it, but once I got around that, like I said, that 170, 180 page mark, that's where the plot really starts to pick up, and I found myself really enjoying it. I loved how Yale itself, the setting, like the only like knowledge I had of Yale was from Gilmore Girls, so I don't really know too much about that school, but it was just very atmospheric. The school and the houses itself were almost like a character, so that was really nice seeing that setting, and I loved how the action picked up. The plot kind of jumps around from different characters' perspective, mostly Alex, but we do follow a couple others in different points in time. So I liked how seeing all those different storylines interwove together into one, so I really enjoyed that. And like I said, eventually at the end, I really ended up enjoying it, and I definitely will continue on reading the next book in the series because it did leave on a cliffhanger, and I'm really interested. If you've seen The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, like the ending in here was very reminiscent of that, which I thought was a little funny. But like I said, overall I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't perfect. I did struggle through the first like third of the book, but after that, like I said, I really was invested in it. I love how it had some feminist undertones in here, and Alex is such a flawed, complex, dynamic character that makes her like, she's selfish, she makes bad choices, but that makes her more human, so I really loved that aspect as well. So that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what books you read this month were and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.